good day. I'm Alvaro, and I head our coding efforts in Australia. And what we do in Code for Australia is we want to help governments to innovate by leveraging a community of skilled and passionate contributors. What does that actually mean? Well, we're trying to save government. So we have 3 programs that allow to have a low-risk platform for governments to try new things and get citizens, government, and industry to come together and collaborate. How does that look like? This was our first fellowship. The guy in the middle, his name is Steve, and his role was to populate this new data repository that was built just for research purposes. And in doing so, create cool stuff with the data. That link is to a blog that he made to share his work and to share things like this. So this is the City of Melbourne's portal, as he called it. It's basically everything that you need to know or that you're interested in from the City of Melbourne, only that it's updated automatically, and it looks great. It's not the official one, as you would probably, if you go and look for it, you'll find. But that's the URL. And most of the people were thinking that Steve was going to be making like ridiculous algorithms and cleaning data and uploading it, but his purpose and what he was interested in was to make data accessible for those that not necessarily interacted with data. So this was our second fellowship. We were lucky enough to have 3 amazing women working with us. They called themselves the Coder Girls. And their role was to prepare 3 local governments to participate at Australia's biggest hackathon, which is called GovHack, and also highlight or raise awareness that men are not the only people interested in civic technology. So this is GovHack. It went international this year, and it is incredibly popular to the extent that organizers in some cases don't know what to do with sponsorship. I wish we had that problem. But like in all seriousness, there's a lot of interest and a lot of expectations from local and private organizations onto GovHack. But most of the time what we find is that the challenges that are posed for this event is here's a data set, make the most amazing visualization, or here's a data set, do something cool with it. And we know the potential of a good hackathon, and we know what it can happen, so we help 3 local governments to prepare for that. The results were much more robust, and hopefully something that those local governments can adopt later in the future. This is our 3rd show and tell. Some of the Code for America folks may recognize Peter. He worked with the Department of Education in New South Wales, where Sydney is. And he created this. It's a school locator. Just like in the US, catchment areas are a pretty big thing, and they change every year, and they not only change where your kid can go to school, but also property prices. So it's very sensitive data that, that was already out, but it wasn't being used. Also, as a parent, if you're looking for a school, then you've got to go, well, can my kid go here? But what are other resources and things available for my kid, like after-school help or things like that? So here's a one-stop shop to do that. One thing that we learned from that experience is, so the app was finished about 3 months ago. The department loved it, but we haven't been able to release it. So we have the department, as soon as we were able to finish the app and finish testing, they said, well, what about if people come back to us and contact us, and what if they inquire about the app? And they found that they didn't have the infrastructure to deal with that stuff. Our 4th and last show and tell, this was our first incubator. And it was specifically designed to help build public transportation apps in the state of Victoria, where I'm from. And we partnered with the state government agency of transport to help them build apps. And these were two of the winners, so which you can find on the App Store. And my favorite one, which is nearby rhinos. So a couple of years ago in Victoria, the state government agency did a safety awareness campaign to make sure that people were aware of tram crossings, and they painted ginormous rhinos on every single tram. So here you can see all the trams that are in Melbourne, including those in the zoo that are not as harmful as the other ones. One thing that was particularly interesting about this incubator was that what we needed to do was to create 3 market-ready apps, which we ended up doing 6. But what was able to get, what came out from that was that conversation that through the incubation part, the Public Transport Agency started having regular conversations with the developers because they wanted to support them. And through that, they got feedback on their API and a bunch of other stuff. And they've been able to improve those processes a lot more about feedback and communication between the developer community and government. Where has that taken us so far? We found that even though we've done quite a bit of stuff in the last 18 months, and there is a lot of commitment and excitement from federal, state, and local government into this journey that we're having. We're still walking in different ways. There is a lack, we believe, of overarching vision of what can Australian governments do and where and how we should do that. But some kind of like key learnings from us is that experimentation pays off. All of our programs were experiments, and it allowed us to I guess the benefits were 2 things: that it allowed us to translate that experimenting within government is okay, but it also allowed us to learn a lot from us and a lot from our government partners. The second one is just because we build something, it doesn't mean that we can deploy it. That was the case with the Department of Education in New South Wales. We are now working with them to do that, and they have created they found so much value of the fellowship that they created an ongoing full-time position to do fellowship-style work. So that was pretty amazing. Also, that industry is a hard one to engage. We have been able to connect with a lot of industry partners. Most of the time, we have been referred to the marketing department, which is great, but we want to collaborate. And probably the most important one is that apps, hackathons, digital transformation, innovation are trendy. You can just tell that about all the trendy people here in the room. But in all seriousness, those labels have been put on the work with public and private organizations. And before we do put those labels onto those things, we need to pause and reflect, what does that actually mean? So if it means that we create a new body to create new stuff and to do the same things that we were doing before, that's actually not going to get us anywhere. But if you do something, and I'm borrowing some words from Pia Waugh, which works at the Digital Transformation Office in Australia, and she defines innovation in a pretty amazing way, and it's got to be personal. So if you believe that innovation is something that you need to do because you really believe that doing things differently can actually help you and help others, then you're on the right track. And it doesn't matter whether you call it digital transformation, innovation, or anything, or you do it through a hackathon, or even if it's just doing your work properly or better. And it's going to take us all, and it's going to take us forever, but then that's the point. Ahead of us, what are we doing? We are going into local government, state government, and hopefully federal government. We're growing the team. I know Australia is not very popular at the moment because it's winter, but trust me, it's pretty mild. And we're going to keep experimenting. We're going to continue to experiment with everything that we do and see where that takes us. So I invite you to come down under.